welcome to our educational video project about current position of personality theory. But before we start, let us introduce ourselves first. I am Register Dimones.
Felicity Nyere, and today we'll explore how personality theory helps us understand why people behave differently and in some cases, why some individuals engage in criminal behavior.
So what comes in your mind when you hear personality theory? So, personality theory is one of psychology's key approach. It looks at patterns of thoughts, emotions, and behaviors that makes each person unique. These patterns, called personality traits, influence how people handle stress, make decisions, and interact with others. So, understanding personality helps us see behavior as more than just right or wrong. It gives insight into the deeper reasons why people act the way they do.
Personality theory developed in the early 20th century. Psychologists wanted to move beyond observing behavior and understand the internal factors shaping it. They realized that behavior is influenced by both inherited traits and life experiences. Let's look at the key theorists. First is Sigmund Freud, who introduced the psychoanalytic approach. Freud explained that our personality has three parts. First is the id, which is our instincts and desires. Second is ego, which balances desires with reality. And the last one is superego, our moral conscience. Here's a simple example. Imagine you're at a party and see a delicious cake. Your id says, "Eat it now, I want it." Your ego says, "Wait, I should ask first or take a small piece." But your superego says, "Sharing is the right thing to do. Don't be selfish."
Another example, Rain is walking down the street and notices a leather wallet lying on the sidewalk. He picks it up and sees it filled with $500 in cash, but also contains the owner's ID. The aide says, "Look at all that cash. Take it. You need a new phone and this space for it right now. No one is watching. Just pocket the money and throw the wallet away. I want it." But the superego says, "Stealing is wrong. Imagine how panicked the owner must be right now. It is your societal duty to return this. You must not take a single cent or you are a bad person." And the ego says, "I can't just steal it, but I can't ignore the wallet either. I will look the ID, contact the owner, and return it. Maybe they will offer a reward, but even if they don't, I feel good about doing the right thing without getting into trouble."
Freud believed unresolved conflicts in these parts, especially during childhood, can affect behavior later. For example, someone with a weak superego may struggle with a guilt and self-control, increasing the chance of antisocial behavior.
Next, Hans Eysenck gave personality research a scientific approach. He identified three major dimensions. The first dimension is the extraversion. These are the people that sociable and seek excitement. The second one is the neuroticism. These are the people that anxious and emotionally unstable. And the last dimension is the psychoticism. These are the people that aggressive and impulsive. Here are some examples of the three dimensions. The first one is if someone high in extraversion might constantly seek parties, new adventures, or thrill-seeking activities. And if someone high in neuroticism may worry a lot, get upset easily, or overreact to small problems. And if someone high in psychoticism might be aggressive, act without thinking, or ignore other feelings. Eysenck emphasized that these traits are partly inherited and measurable through tests. This helps explain why some people are naturally more impulsive or thrill-seeking than others.
Then there's Raymond Cattell, who used factor analysis to study traits systematically. He identified 16 key personality traits, including warmth, dominance, and self-control. This led to the 16PF questionnaire, which predicts behavior in different situations.
for the modern researcher like Adrian Rinn and David Farrington combine psychology and biology. For instance, Rinn studies how lower prefrontal cortex activity affects impulse control, while Farrington focuses on how family and social experience shape behavior.
So how does personality relate to crime? Some people develop traits like impulsivity, aggression, low self-control, or lack of empathy. These traits can increase the likelihood of criminal behavior.
Freud explained that a dominant id or wakes of the ego can lead to immoral actions. For example, a teenager may steal because the id wants immediate pleasure, while the ego can't fully stop them and the superego is weak.
Eysenck gives a measurable perspective. People high in psychoticism may act aggressively or ignore rules. High extroversion, people may seek risky activities, sometimes illegal. High neuroticism can make people react erratically under stress. For example, someone who's impulsive, which is psychoticism, thrill-seeking, which is extraversion, and anxious, which is neuroticism, might start shoplifting as a way to cope with stress and boredom.
Catill's approach helps predict behavior using threats. Someone high in dominance, impulsivity, and low emotionally stability may act antisocial, while a person high in self-control can avoid crime even in those situations.
Modern studies show crime often results from both personality and environment. Rain found that a low prefrontal cortex activity weakens impulse control. Combine this with childhood neglect, and the risk of criminal behavior rises.
Now, let's look at real-life examples. Ted Bundy was charming and intelligent, but manipulated and remorseless. He shows psychoticism and lack of empathy. Exactly the traits personality theory predicts could lead to antisocial behavior.
Jeffrey Dahmer had poor impulse control and emotional instability. Freud would say his ego failed to balance it and superego, letting violent impulses take over.
Fictional examples also help. Alex Delarge from A Clockwork Orange shows impulsive aggressions and thrill-seeking, a dominant id. This story also highlights attempts at rehabilitations, which relates to Eysenck's idea of learning moral behavior.
The Joker from Batman is smart, but he's reckless and emotionally unstable. His psychoticism and lack of empathy show how personality traits can drive destructive behavior.
For our reflections, studying personality theory shows us that behavior is shaped by biological, psychological, and environmental factors. It's not just about bad choices.
It also has practical uses in real life. For example, law enforcement and psychologists can assess personality traits like impulsivity, aggression, or low self-control to predict who might be at risk of reoffending, design personalized rehabilitation programs, and provide counseling or behavioral support.
Even in schools and community programs can apply these insights. Teens with impulsive or aggressive tendencies can benefit from mentorships, structured activities, or skill-building programs to help prevent future criminal behavior.
And on a personal level, understanding personality theory help us reflect on our own behavior. By recognizing our traits, we can manage impulses, improve relationships, and make better decisions.
Of course, there are limitations. Freud ideas can be hard to measure scientifically. Eysenck's model may seem deterministic, and no single theory fully accounts for cultural or social influences.
But still, personality theory provides a structured approach to understanding behavior, guiding interventions, prevention strategies, and personal growth.
In conclusion, personality theory helps explain why some individuals may engage in criminal behavior. It shows how tweets, combined with life experience, shape actions.
By studying Freud, Eysenck, Kitzel, and modern researchers, we gain insights into human behavior and practical strategies for prevention and rehabilitation.
Thanks for watching.
We hope this video give you new insights. Once again, this is Felicity Niere.
Register Demonis.
See you next time.